After 10 years apart, an incredible twist reveals the heartwarming connection between a billionaire and his childhood friend. Jason stood outside the old community center, a hub for fundraisers and heartwarming gatherings in his small Midwestern town. Returning after all these years felt surreal. The air was thick with nostalgia, but his starched shirt and designer shoes contrasted harshly with the peeling paint and the faded murals that adorned the building's walls. It was astonishing how little had changed, and yet everything was different. Flashbacks flooded his mind. The brisk autumn afternoon spent tossing a football with Maya in her backyard, her contagious laugh echoing through the chilly air. He recalled the fierce determination in her eyes, even back then, a determination that had never dimmed, even as life threw one challenge after another her way. Maya. He could hardly believe she'd stayed. While he forged ahead in the big city, she remained here, a devoted nurse fighting against a collapsing healthcare system and struggling to care for her son, who needed treatment desperately. Standing there, he felt a pang of guilt slice through him. Could he ever understand her struggles? The gala was in full swing now, the clink of champagne glasses mingling with the soft chatter of the guests. The atmosphere was electric, but as he scanned the crowd, his heart ached for the resilience of the people who filled the seats he once sat in. They dressed in their best, faces painted with hope, despite the grim reality facing their beloved hospital. As he mingled with guests, every laughter felt like a reminder of the weight Maya must carry. Jason? An all-too-familiar voice caught him off guard, pulling him from his thoughts. It was Maya, looking as beautiful as ever, yet the lines on her face told a different story. They embraced, an electric warmth sparking between them. But the smiles faded when they locked eyes. The unspoken realities loomed over them like heavy storm clouds. "Look at you, Mr. Success," Maya said with a bravado that didn't quite mask her hurt. "It must be nice to escape. Meanwhile, I'm here, trying to keep my head above water." Each word struck like a hammer. Jason felt his chest tighten. He had escaped, but at what cost? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Maya spoke, Jason kept thinking about the beauty and tragedy lying intertwined in her life. The gala progressed, lights sparkled, and the excitement swirled around him. But then, a loud crash interrupted the chatter. A young boy had collapsed. Panic ensued. He rushed closer, through a crowd of concerned faces, heart racing. In that chaotic moment, Jason was reminded of the true meaning of success. It wasn't only the fortune he had amassed, but also the lives he could change. Would he have the courage to support the very community he had turned away from? As the clock ticked down towards a necessary fundraising goal, deep down, he knew he was at a crossroads. Could he finally confront the privilege of his choices, or would he return to the city as just another success story, leaving those he once loved behind? The night teetered on the edge of disaster, and Jason felt his world expanding and collapsing simultaneously. His heart pounded with a singular truth. The real challenge lay ahead, and he was ready to meet it head-on. Jason pushed through the throng, adrenaline coursing through his veins. The boy lay sprawled on the polished floor, his tiny body looking so fragile amidst the chaos around. A nurse rushed past him, but not Maya. She was right there, crouched beside the boy. The look on her face was a mix of determination and fear, a fierce warrior fighting for a life with limited resources. "Maya," he called out, panic tinging his voice. Without a beat, she glanced up at him. "Call an ambulance. Now." Her voice was steady, but he could see the worry etched in her brow. In that moment, he was struck hard by the reality of her life. The stakes were never just about them anymore. It was survival. Jason pulled out his phone, trembling as he dialed. He watched Maya spring into action, her hands steady and confident as she checked the boy's pulse. The community center faded around him. There was nothing but the boy and Maya. "Just stay with us, buddy. Help is coming," Maya whispered soothingly, brushing the boy's hair back. Jason felt helpless as he held the phone to his ear, waiting for the dispatcher's voice to cut through the noise. "Please, hurry," he muttered, his heart drumming in his chest as he watched her. "You're going to be okay," she continued, unwavering, and Jason marveled at her strength. She was saving lives right here, every single day. Meanwhile, he had taken a different path, far-flung from the everyday struggles of people like them. Was he truly successful? Or had he turned his back on everything that once mattered? Once the call ended, Jason stepped closer, kneeling beside her. "What can I do?" he asked, desperate to help, to somehow share in this moment. "Just keep everybody back. I need space," she said, never taking her eyes off the boy. There was a fierce fire in her, a warrior's heart, and in that moment, Jason realized how wrong he had been to think of success as just wealth and ambition. Minutes felt like hours as they waited, the hum of conversations around them dulled by the urgency of their situation. Expressions of fear mixed with hope. Would they save this little boy? Finally, the sound of sirens pierced through the air, cutting through the tension like a knife. Jason felt a rush of relief. The paramedics arrived, and Maya stepped aside, her expression a mixture of exhaustion and determination. As they worked on the boy, Jason caught sight of Maya's hands shaking slightly. "You did everything you could," he reassured her, but she shook her head. "There's always more we can do," she replied, her eyes filled with unshed tears. "We can't just think about ourselves." Jason had a sudden realization. This was his moment. He had let his fears of rejection hold him back, but he didn't want to be that man anymore. He wanted to be a part of this community, to help Maya carry her burdens even if just a little. The paramedics wheeled the boy away, and as the crowd dispersed, Jason grabbed Maya's arm, pulling her aside. "I'm in," he said, his voice firm. "What do you need?" "I want to help with the fundraising, the hospital, whatever it takes." Maya's eyes widened with a mix of surprise and hope, yet uncertainty flickered behind them. "You really mean that?" "I do," he nodded, feeling the weight of the past shifting on his shoulders, making room for a new future. But deep down, he also knew that stepping into this world wouldn't be smooth. It would require knocking down barriers he had erected over the years. Maya studied him, vulnerability softening her guardedness. There was a long pause, and then she took a breath, the muscles in her jaw relaxing just a little. "I have to be honest, Jason. It's not going to be easy." He smiled, a genuine warmth flooding through him. "I'm ready for that challenge." But just as newfound resolution began to settle between them, the sound of applause erupted from the gala room. They turned to see people gathering, but instead of joy, there was confusion. In the whirl of lights, whispers rippled through the crowd. "What is happening?" Jason asked, as an unexpected figure stepped into view, one he anticipated to see. Maya shifted beside him, her face paling slightly. "That's the board member I told you about. He has been known to make some interesting decisions." Jason felt a twist in his gut. Whatever this man was about to reveal could shake the foundations of everything they were fighting for. Would their commitment to saving the hospital and their community be tested right then and there? The moment hung in the air, heavy with promise and uncertainty, and Jason knew everything was about to change. Jason watched as the board member strode confidently to the center of the gala room, his tailored suit contrasting sharply with the casual attire of most of the attendees. The chaos that had just erupted around the boy seemed like a distant memory now, overshadowed by the tension that filled the space. Everyone held their breath, awaiting whatever news this man had to share. Maya stood rigid beside him, eyes locked on the speaker. "He doesn't care about the people," she whispered fiercely, her voice trembling slightly. "It's always about the money with him." Jason felt a wave of unease wash over him. He thought of the boy they had just seen vulnerable and in need of help. Would this man's decisions put more lives at risk? "Good evening, everyone," the man boomed, his voice smooth yet commanding. "I know you've all been concerned about the future of our community hospital, especially after what happened here tonight." Jason could see the flutter of shock across the faces in the crowd. "I'm here to announce a new plan that will ensure our continued success and the sustainability of our services." "Success for who?" Maya hissed under her breath. "Not for the people who need this place." As he continued to speak, Jason couldn't help but notice how the man's words twisted around the room, weaving a narrative that danced between hope and greed. "We're establishing partnerships with private investors," he said, making sweeping gestures that seemed grand, yet hollow. This will bring not only funding, but innovation to our practice. New technology, new capabilities. Tension crackled as he continued, outlining plans that involved cutting hospital funding and laying off staff, all in the name of progress. Jason's stomach churned. And let us be clear, this doesn't mean we're ignoring critical needs, the board member added, flashing a rehearsed smile that didn't reach his eyes. Instead, we will be streamlining our services to match the data-driven demands of the community. Streamlining? Maya echoed in disbelief. That's a nice term for destroying what makes us human. He doesn't see the lives behind those numbers. Jason turned to her, seeing the fire in her eyes. He realized they were both standing on the edge of a precipice, deciding what to fight for. This man was threatening everything they just committed to. With the speech dragging on, he felt an overwhelming sense of urgency. We can't just let him execute his plan without a fight, he said, looking at Maya. We need to gather community support, share what's really at stake here. I want to stand with you, but we need a strategy. Maya's gaze sharpened as his words ignited something deeper within her. Are you sure you're ready for this? She asked, her voice stripped of doubt now. I've never been more sure, Jason replied, his heart racing. Together, they could rally those who believed in saving the hospital and the lives it touched. As the board member began to wrap up his speech, Jason felt the weight of their decision settle around them. They would have to confront the powerful machine of politics and money. Suddenly, a hand shot up from the audience, boldness brimming with frustration. What about the children? What about those who depend on this hospital? The room fell silent, eyes turning to see who had dared interrupt. Maya's eyes widened with both fear and hope. We need to back her up, she urged. Jason nodded, his own resolve hardening. They had to act. As the applause began to roll, Jason felt the air shift around them. It was time to organize, to mobilize. They were no longer passive bystanders. Let us take this moment and make it count, he said, determination coursing through him. But just as they started to step forward, a new voice, powerful and chilling, echoed from the back of the room. If you think you can oppose the board, think again. I've got the power to make or break you. Jason's blood ran cold. Who was this new threat? Would they find the strength to face it head-on and become the community heroes they aspired to be? Jason's heart raced as he scanned the crowd for the source of the chilling voice. The room buzzed with whispers, tension wrapping around him like a vice. He caught a glimpse of a woman stepping forward from the back, a striking figure with an air of authority. Her crisp, tailored dress echoed the board member's sharp suit, but there was a fierceness in her eyes that made him uneasy. Who are you? Jason called out, refusing to let fear stifle him. The woman smirked, a confident expression that made the room feel even more electric. Let us just say I'm here to protect our investments, she replied smoothly. And I don't take kindly to threats against them. Maya's fists clenched tightly at her sides. This isn't just about numbers. Lives are on the line. Exactly, the woman shot back, her voice unwavering. And those lives depend on the choices of the board. You're either with us, or you're in the way. Jason felt the weight of her gaze pierce through him. He looked to Maya, whose eyes burned with determination, but there was fear there too. What if she's right? Jason thought, but he forced the doubt down. They couldn't let themselves be intimidated now. They had come too far. What will it take for you to understand that this is about more than profits? Jason pressed, feeling the adrenaline of the moment. The woman chuckled softly, as if she found his question genuinely amusing. You don't get it, do you? This is business. The world doesn't revolve around your emotions or your ideals. But it should, Maya shouted, stepping forward defiantly. Behind every patient and every family needing care, there's a story, a heartbeat. You're trying to turn them into statistics. Jason watched in awe as Maya's voice resonated with the crowd, pulling people from their chairs, swaying their opinions. The applause came roaring back, rising, a call to arms echoing in the space. See, the woman snapped, her composure slipping for the first time. This is the problem. The more you push, the more you threaten our plans. You need to know your place in this. We know our place, Jason shouted, feeling the energy surge through him. We're the community, and we want to just stand by while you strip away our resources. As the arguments flew back and forth, Jason took a moment to survey the audience. Familiar faces he recognized from fundraisers and community meetings surrounded him, their expressions shifting from passive acceptance to a growing fire. Then, a voice broke through the feuding, a soft voice tinged with desperation. But what about the kids? It was the mother of the boy they had seen earlier. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears. My son needs this hospital. I don't care about numbers, he's just a kid. The room fell silent again, the woman's confident facade cracking. Jason felt a swell of hope mixed with urgency. This is it, he thought. They couldn't stop now. Maya turned to Jason, searching his eyes. We need a plan. We need people to hear their stories. We need to show them the truth. Yes, Jason exclaimed, inspired by her passion. We'll organize a meeting, share our concerns, our stories. We'll bring the community together. We can't let them divide us. The initial board member raised a hand to resume control, but it was clear he was losing his grip. If you proceed with this, there will be consequences. You must understand that, he warned, his voice now tinged with desperation. Jason met the board member's gaze, unafraid. And if we don't fight, the real consequences will be on our conscience. The crowd erupted in murmurs, the energy shifting from fear to determination. Let us outline our plan, and we'll be ready to confront them. We can show them that this community matters. Maya exclaimed, her voice rising. But just as they were about to move forward, the woman interjected, her eyes gleaming with a dark confidence. Just remember, the board has resources you can't even begin to imagine. You're playing a dangerous game. Jason's stomach knotted again. But somewhere deep inside, a sense of purpose ignited. Let them try, he thought defiantly. Can we count on each other? He asked Maya, his voice steady. She nodded fervently, her resolve shining clearer than before. Yes, we'll fight together. As they turned back to the crowd, ready to organize a wave of community support, Jason felt the pulse of change rushing through him. This was just the beginning, but the stakes were already higher than he had ever imagined. And in that moment, he couldn't shake the feeling that much bigger forces were at play, and their fight was only just beginning. Who was this woman really, and what could she unleash to guard the board's interests? Would they really be able to stand up against such power? As these questions swirled in his mind, a new wave of uncertainty washed over him, intertwining with the battle they had just ignited. Jason stood at the front of the room, his mind racing with possibilities as the crowd murmured around him. The tension was palpable, each person leaning in, waiting for words that could ignite hope or shatter their dreams. Maya stood beside him, her energy radiating like a beacon. They needed to act fast, but fear was a silent opponent, lurking in the shadows. Let us gather local stories, Jason suggested, his voice steady despite the chaos within. We should make videos, flyers, anything that shows the true impact this hospital has on our lives. Maya nodded. Yes, we can connect with the families who have been helped, showcase the real faces behind the numbers. Her enthusiasm fueled Jason's courage. They began to sketch out a plan, their ideas flowing organically, drawing in support from those around them. Several community members stepped forward, offering their stories and resources. There was Sarah, who had worked at the hospital for years and knew firsthand the difference it made. Tom, a father with a sick child, shared how a last-minute surgery had saved his son's life. As stories filled the room, the atmosphere shifted. Fear was gradually replaced by resilience, a determination to fight back against the indifference of the board. Each voice added a new layer to their cause, binding them closer together, forming an unbreakable thread woven through shared experiences and silent struggles. Then, just as hope began to swell, the woman stepped forward again, her presence a dark cloud looming over their gathering. You think you can make a difference with a few emotional tales? You'll only open yourselves up to scrutiny. Her voice cut like glass, slicing through the warmth of the community spirit they had ignited. For every story you tell, I promise you, we can spin it the other way. We can paint the hospital as a burden on the budget, a drain on resources. You really believe you can win this? She smiled, a smirk that sent shivers down Jason's spine. Jason took a breath, willing himself to focus. Maybe we can't fight money with money, but we have something more powerful. We're a community. That matters. A few heads nodded in agreement, but doubt still lingered. What happens if the board retaliates? They're ruthless. This could ruin us, someone whispered from the group. Jason felt the fear wash over him like a wave, threatening to pull him under. He had seen it how corporations could crush passion with the weight of their wallets. As thoughts of potential fallout filled his mind, doubt crept in, but he fought against it. "No, we can't back down," he said firmly. "We have to show them that we are more than just numbers." Suddenly, his phone buzzed in his pocket, disrupting the charged atmosphere. It was a message from an unknown number. Jason hesitated for a moment, then opened it. What he read made his heart race. "You may be in deeper than you think. Meet me at the old diner. I have information that could change everything." His mind raced. Could this be a trap? Or someone with vital intel? He looked up at Maya, who was still engaged in discussions with the others, and weighed his options. Should he tell her? Would she trust him to go alone? "Jason?" Maya's voice cut through his thought spiral. "What is it?" He hesitated, wrestling with the weight of secrets and the urgency of their mission. "Nothing. Just, we have so much to do here." "What is going on?" Maya pressed, her brow furrowed with concern. Jason took a deep breath, glancing back at the crowd. The stakes had grown, and if that message was what he thought it was, he couldn't just ignore it. "I might have to step away for a bit. There is something important I need to check." Maya's eyes widened, clearly sensing the shift in his demeanor. "You can't just leave us. What if there is a confrontation?" His heart raced at the thought of letting her down, but the voice of the unknown sender echoed in his mind. "I have to do this. We've come too far to back down now." As he slipped away from the group, a knot of anxiety tightened in his stomach. What truth was waiting for him at the diner? And would it ultimately help them, or put them all in even greater danger? Jason navigated the familiar streets toward the old diner, each step heavy with uncertainty. The sun was just setting, casting a golden hue over the pavement, yet all he felt was a chill creeping up his spine. The diner had been a staple of his childhood, a nostalgic place filled with laughter and milkshakes. Now it felt like a scene from a thriller. He pushed open the door, the jingle of the bell offering a stark contrast to the apprehension in his heart. The familiar scent of burgers and fries enveloped him, but he hardly registered it. His eyes scanned the room. It was nearly empty, save for a few late-night diners and an old man sipping coffee in the corner. But at the booth towards the back, a woman sat with her back to him, her silhouette unmistakable. "Jenny," he whispered, taking a cautious step forward. Memories surged back as she turned to meet his gaze. It had been a decade since they last saw each other, and for a moment, he was a teenager again, bursting with youthful dreams. But those dreams had long since been replaced with burdens. "Jason," she said softly, her voice tinged with surprise and something else he couldn't pinpoint. "I wasn't sure you'd come." He slid into the booth opposite her, heart racing. "You said you have information?" She leaned in closer, the light catching the worry etched on her face. "I know what the board is planning. There is more at stake here than just budget cuts. Something much darker." Jason felt a lump form in his throat. "What do you mean?" Jenny looked away, her fingers tracing the rim of her coffee cup. "There are discussions behind closed doors about selling the hospital to a private firm. They're not just looking to cut costs. They want to turn it into a profit machine, a place where care takes a backseat to money." The words crushed him. The very institution that had saved lives, that had provided hope in despair, was on the verge of being dismantled. "But we can't let them do that. There must be something we can do." She met his gaze, determination flickering in her eyes. "That is why I reached out. I have contacts in the hospital. I can help you gather undeniable proof of what they're planning. But it's risky. If they find out." Jason leaned back, heart pounding, caught in a heavy mix of hope and dread. "I understand. But if we succeed, we could save the hospital. We have to try." Before she could respond, the door swung open with a jingle, and a group of men filed in, their demeanor commanding. Jason recognized one of them as a member of the hospital board, a slick businessman whose smile never reached his eyes. They slipped into a booth near the door, laughter spilling from their table, their chatter laced with a dark undertone that made Jason's skin crawl. "Speak of the devil," Jenny muttered, glancing nervously toward the board members. "They've been watching everything. We can't be seen together." "Right," he said, urgency creeping in. "We need to meet in secret. Plan this carefully." As Jason slid out of the booth, his heart fired with a new sense of purpose. But just as he turned to leave, Jenny grabbed his hand. "Be careful, Jason." I don't know how deep this goes, but we need to watch our backs. He nodded, understanding the weight of her words. The stakes had multiplied, and they were now in a dangerous game. They could be risking everything: lives, livelihoods, their futures, and it was only just beginning. When he stepped outside, the night air was thick with tension. His phone buzzed again, another message from that unknown sender. He hesitated before opening it. "You're being watched. Trust no one." A chill swept through him. Had they already been exposed? Would his efforts save the hospital, or was it already too late? The truth lingered just out of reach. And as the distant sounds of the diner faded, Jason's resolve hardened. He would unravel the mystery, no matter what it took. But who could he trust when they were all playing their own games? The streetlights flickered as Jason walked, a ghostly glow illuminating his path. His mind raced with thoughts of Jenny and the perilous path they were stepping onto. He glanced at his phone, the ominous message still fresh. It felt like eyes were watching him from every shadow. He needed a plan. The hospital was more than just a job to him. It was where he had witnessed miracles and the fragility of life. Losing it felt like losing a part of himself. He could still picture the bustling waiting room, the doctors rushing in and out, patients being wheeled in with hope sparkling in their eyes. He couldn't let that vision fade away. His hands trembled as he pulled out his phone, his fingers hovering over the contacts. Who could help him? He thought of Mark, an old friend from his hospital days. Mark had always been the more connected of the two, often whispering about the inner workings of the administration. Jason pressed call, his heartbeat thudding in his ears. "Come on, pick up," he muttered under his breath. "Hello?" Mark's voice answered, the familiarity easing some of Jason's tension. "Mark, it's Jason. We need to talk. Is everything okay? You sound tense." "Not really. It's about the hospital. I think they're planning something big, something dangerous for the community." "What do you mean?" Jason hesitated, his mind racing. He couldn't afford to be vague. "A private firm may take over. Cuts aren't the only thing on the table, Mark. I need information, but it has to be discreet." There was a pause on the other end. "Okay, I can help, but we need to meet somewhere safe. I've heard things too, but you're right to be cautious. Just last week, there were whispers about some shady deals happening." Jason felt a flicker of hope. "Let us meet at the old library at noon tomorrow. It'll be quiet." "Got it. But be careful, man. If anyone thinks we're up to something, it could get bad. You know how they are." "Yeah, I know. Thanks, Mark." As he hung up, a sense of determination washed over him. Jenny's concern echoed in his mind. He needed to tread lightly but firmly. Night settled in, wrapping the town in silence. He could hear the distant hum of cars, but felt isolated in a world of uncertainty. The thought of his childhood, of carefree days at the diner with Jenny, reminded him of how much everything had changed. What had felt like an innocent hangout now held shadows of conspiracy. He remembered laughing over milkshakes, but now, all he could think about was betrayal lurking beneath friendly smiles. The chill returned, and he pulled his coat tighter. He spotted a familiar place nearby, an all-night grocery store that used to be the hub for locals. Inside, he wandered the aisles without much thought, his mind racing. He grabbed a few items, purely out of habit rather than need. But as he passed the magazine rack, something caught his eye. The headline read, "Local Hospital in Turmoil. Is there a secret sale in the works?" His stomach twisted. He picked the magazine up, scanning the article, and his heart sank deeper with each word. The pieces were coming together, and the situation was worse than he had imagined. He needed to find proof fast before they lost everything, including the hospital's soul. Looking down at the magazine, a knot formed in his stomach. Time was running out. What if they acted before he could gather evidence? He took a deep breath, adjusting the weight of the magazine under his arm, building a resolve within him. Tomorrow would be critical. Trusting Mark and Jenny could be the key to stopping this madness. As he stepped outside, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched again. The stakes were higher than he thought. He could feel it in the air, a thick tension that hung over him. Nothing would ever be the same. The next twist was just around the corner, waiting to reveal itself. How deep did this web of deceit go? What secrets might surface when he pulled on the loose thread? Jason walked back home, the night air heavy with a sense of dread. Darkness clung to the streets like a heavy fog, each shadow feeling more pronounced. His footsteps echoed in the silence, a reminder of the ticking clock in his head. With every step, his heart pounded louder, a frantic rhythm urging him to keep moving, to find answers before it was too late. He replayed his conversation with Mark, trying to latch onto any detail that might grant him insight. What kind of shady deals had been whispered about? Who were the key players in all of this? Each thought twisted like a knife in his gut. He wasn't just protecting a hospital. He was safeguarding lives, the fragile threads binding this community together. As he approached his front door, exhaustion washed over him. He pushed it open to a dimly lit living room. The heavy shadows mingled with the stale quiet. Jenny wasn't home yet, which gave him an unexpected split of relief and worry. He needed to find her, but he had to dig deeper first. He dropped his keys on the table next to a couple of bills that had yet to be opened. The clutter reminded him of how they had forged a small life together, once filled with plans and shared dreams. His breath hitched. Would they really go through with this? What would become of everything they built? That magazine article echoed in his mind, the implications heavy and unsettling. He felt compelled to scour the house for anything that could give him a leg up. Jason settled down at his small desk, its surface littered with hastily scribbled notes, drawings, and memories. Papers crinkled under his fingers like the weight of his thoughts. It was time to make a strategy. Jason fished through the calls in his phone, looking for numbers that could provide leads. He dialed a few, catching snippets of conversations that only deepened his growing anxiety. Finally, his old college buddy, Tom, picked up. Tom had moved away shortly after graduation, but they had stayed in touch over social media. Tom, it's Jason. We've got a situation brewing at the hospital. Can you dig anything up on the board's recent decisions? Yeah, I can try. What do you know? Very little, but I suspect big changes. Maybe worse. He explained a bit about the rumors, trying to keep his voice steady. Anything you can find would help, man. Sure thing. I'll reach out to a few contacts, Tom replied, his tone shifting from casual to serious. Thanks, I owe you one. Jason hung up, steeling himself for the uncertainty ahead. Hearing a car door close outside made his heart start racing again. That could be Jenny. He took a moment to gather his thoughts, determined to keep her in the loop without clouding her mind with fear. When Jenny entered the house, her laughter floated through the air, cutting through the darkness like light. It was both a comfort and reminder of how fragile their happiness felt. Hey, she said, dropping her bag, her smile brightening the room. How's it going? He hesitated, searching for the right words. Just trying to figure some things out. You okay? Busy day at work. Brought home some food. She held up a small bag with takeout. I thought we could have a nice evening. Sounds good, he said, forcing a smile. As she began unpacking dinner, Jason felt a pang of guilt. How could he burden her with this chaos? The darkness looming in the background started to consume the brightness she brought into the room. Everything all right? She asked, catching the change in his demeanor. Yeah, just thinking about some stuff at the hospital. I'll fill you in later. Her brow furrowed slightly, but she nodded. They settled in to eat, the weight of unspoken fears lingering like a heavy cloud. A sudden thought struck him. What if she knew something he didn't? What if they were somehow already in over their heads without realizing it? As they talked about their day, he watched her closely, wishing that the warmth between them could push away the uncertainty closing in. But the truth lingered, festering just beneath the surface. Jason, she said, her voice steady, if there's something wrong, we deal with it together. You don't have to face it alone. His chest tightened. Could he really bring her into this world of shadows? Something deep inside him knew he couldn't hold back the truth forever. But as they finished dinner, a message pinged on his phone, an unknown number lighting up the screen. The hairs on his neck prickled. What if this was the breakthrough he needed? He picked up the phone, and a rush of adrenaline coursed through him. What have I just opened? He thought as he swiped to read the text. The answer was simmering on the edge, waiting to be uncovered. What if the information he was about to receive would change everything? Jason took a deep breath, heart racing as he glanced at the screen. The message read, "Meet me at the old diner. I have information about the board that you won here anywhere else. Come alone." A chill ran down his spine, equal parts intrigue and fear. Was it worth the risk? What if this was a trap? But then again, what if it wasn't? He ran a hand through his hair, squeezing his eyes shut for a moment. Jenny's voice echoed in his mind, "We deal with it together." But this was different. This wasn't just a conversation over dinner. This was about secrets buried deep and potentially dangerous revelations. Jason weighed the options. He could ignore the text, try to protect Jenny from whatever storm was brewing. But what if it was something they needed to confront together? Hey, everything okay? Jenny's voice broke through his thoughts, filled with concern. Yeah, just I got a text, he said, trying to keep his tone light. A buddy thinks he has some insight about the hospital. Sounds serious, she said, her eyes narrowing. He nodded, feeling the weight of the decision pressing down on him. It might be. I'm thinking about checking it out. Tell me you're going to be careful. Her worry struck him sharply. Of course. It's just a diner. I'll be in and out. Jenny studied him for a heartbeat, then smiled gently. Okay, just don't leave me in suspense. You'll call me, right? Right, he said, but guilt washed over him again. The last thing he wanted was to add to her worry. After a quick hug, he grabbed his jacket and slipped out the door. The chill in the air bit at his skin as he headed toward the diner, each step heavier than the last. The flickering neon sign above the entrance cast a glow that made the place look stuck in a bygone era. It was a fleeting split between warm nostalgia and foreboding uncertainty as he stepped inside. The smell of grease and coffee hit him hard. Familiar yet unsettling. The place was empty except for a waitress who looked like she had been working there since the invention of the wheel. She didn't seem surprised by his entrance, even as he felt the weight of both solitude and anticipation hanging over him. Jason slid into a booth, heart thrumming in his chest. The minutes stretched out like hours, and just when he started questioning his choice, the door swung open and a figure stepped inside, face partially hidden under a hood. Jason's breath caught his mind racing. It couldn't be who he thought it was. But as the figure moved closer, the hood fell back, revealing a familiar face Jason thought he'd never want to see again. Hey, Jason. Mark's voice was low, almost a whisper, but there was no mistaking the edge that laced his tone. What are you doing here? Jason shot back, the anger bubbling up. This is not what we discussed. Mark smirked slightly. I guess you could say I have some unfinished business. Jason's mind churned, recalling the last time they crossed paths, the fallout, the betrayal, the reasons he had kept his distance. Business? You have no idea what you're up against. I'm not interested in your games, Mark. Mark shrugged, settling into the seat across from him, an air of confidence around him. It's not a game if I have something real to share. Something with consequences. We need to talk. Jason clenched his jaw, a storm of emotions brewing within. Could he really trust Mark? If there was even a chance that what he had to say could change everything, he had to listen, even if it meant digging back into old wounds. What could possibly make you think I want to hear anything you have to say? Jason shot back, crossing his arms stubbornly. Because the future of the hospital and your life, too, depends on it. Jason felt a knot in his stomach tighten at those words. Reality collided with urgency. Why should I believe you? He asked, desperate to deflect the weight of what was at stake. Because, whether you like it or not, we're all connected. And I've got something that'll blow this case wide open, assuming you're willing to hear me out. Mark's voice dropped, their past tension hanging thick in the air. Something inside Jason flickered, the hope that he could finally piece together this puzzle. But it was risky, the kind of risky that could shift everything in a heartbeat. What happens if I say yes? Jason asked cautiously, tension crackling between them like electricity. I'll show you the truth, or what's left of it, Mark replied, his eyes hardening, a mix of determination and something else Jason couldn't quite place. Jason's heart raced, feeling the stakes heighten with each passing moment, caught between the urge to protect his life and the urgent need for answers. All right, let us hear it, he finally decided, bracing for whatever storm awaited him. As Mark leaned closer, intent in his gaze, Jason began to realize just how deep this rabbit hole might go. Would he find clarity, or only darkness? The answer was closer than he thought, looming just at the edge of their past, and somewhere in their tangled history lay the key to everything. But at what cost? Jason stood on the steps of the community center, the gala now a fading echo behind him. The night had changed everything. It was unlike any evening he had anticipated, caught in the whirlwind of emotions, revelation, and a fierce determination ignited by Maya and the community. Maya walked up beside him, taking a deep breath as she leaned against the railing. Her eyes were bright with hope, but shadowed by the uncertainty still hanging in the air. You really mean it, Jason? You want to fight for this? Her voice trembled slightly, a mixture of disbelief and cautious optimism. Yes, he replied, adrenaline coursing through his veins. I'm all in. We owe it to everyone, the families, the kids, everyone who needs this hospital. She turned to him, her expression softening. Do you have any idea how much it means to hear you say that? Jason felt a wave of warmth wash over him. He knew the path ahead would not be easy, but standing here with Maya felt different than before. It was about more than individual journeys. It was about unity. Let us gather everyone, he urged. They need to know they are not alone. The two of them moved inside, and soon, the energy of their shared purpose began to build. They connected with families, shared their stories, exchanged their fears. The kids who played in the background, parents who fought for their loved ones, all of it became a chorus of voices amplifying their mission, dissolving the doubt that had once encased Jason's heart. Together, we are stronger, he said at an impromptu meeting of community members that gathered at the old center. We need to show the board that our hospital isn't just numbers, it's lives, it's memories. Applause broke out, and a woman rose with her child cradled in her arms. My son's life was saved here. We can't let them tear this apart. Her voice broke with emotion, but the strength radiated from her desperate plea. As they strategized, news of the board's shady dealings that Mark had revealed to Jason spread quickly. With the community's resolute spirit, momentum surged. They began small fundraising events, workshops, and awareness campaigns that dynamically drew the support of many around town. But the stakes were still high. Jason felt the weight of Mark's warning hanging over him. The board has resources you can't begin to imagine. Every day brought him closer to that reality, but instead of fear, it fueled his fight. He trained himself to see past the shadows. No longer would the community feel paralyzed by those in PowerPoint. One sunset evening, they organized a rally, aiming to pull together everyone who had ever relied on the hospital. The streets were filled with hopeful anticipation. Banners waved brightly in the fading light. Voices united in unison. The hospital is ours. They chanted, we will not be silenced. In that moment, as he looked across the crowd, Jason spotted Maya. She was surrounded by families and friends. Her face lit up with a radiant smile, genuine, proud. He felt a rush of elation. This was what it was all about. When the board member they had grown to dread finally faced them, Jason stood tall, surrounded by his community. You've underestimated us, he declared, meeting the board member's icy gaze. This isn't just about money anymore. It's about lives, and we are going to fight tooth and nail to protect that. Cheers erupted, the crowd behind him reflecting hope and willingness to push against the tide. And as the board began to falter, the community flooded their channels with heartwarming testimonials, social media stories painted in stark contrast to the cold calculations, building an undeniable narrative that turned the tide. The night wore on, a mixture of tears, laughter, and sheer determination woven through every moment shared. When they learned that the hospital would remain in the community's hands, an impossible victory, forged from unity, Jason felt more than just joy. He felt rebirth. He turned to the faces illuminated by the light of victory. He saw gratitude, reflection, and new beginnings. Maya's hand found his, intertwining fingers. I knew you had it in you, she whispered. None of this would mean anything without you, he replied. They stood embraced in the joy of sacrifice and resilience, a blossoming hope that anchored them for years to come. The community had transformed not just a hospital, but themselves, strengthened by trials, woven tighter through loyalty and love. And in that moment, Jason knew their journey was far from over, it had just begun. But before he could embrace the future, urgency gripped him. The power of stories shared had brought them to this moment, and now it was time to share again. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Join the movement.